This is my vocation story. I was born in St. Louis during World War II and lived in that Catholic city until I was 9. And as a small child, I had such a strong sense of the presence of God. It was always with me. I loved to go into the silent church and just sit or kneel in the silence. But I think I also had a strong play life, and playing hard, I sensed God in listening to the cicadas and the sycamores in the summer. I sensed God. We lived near the St. Louis Zoo. At nighttime in the summer we could hear the lions roar. And even that said something about God and the wonder of the creatures and the wonder of all of life. At age 9, we moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And there was a big change in all of our lives because we had moved to the Protestant South. For me, we were kind of placed outside the norm, with people asking all these strange questions about why Catholics do these odd things. In those days, it was things like fast from meat on Friday. So anyway, kids all want to be normal. Kids want to be like everybody else, but we somehow are different. But I still, the sense of God's presence and the call to give my life to God, I think was planted in me from birth, and it never stopped. So my first 2 years of high school, I went to Tuscaloosa High, and then the second 2 years, my parents gave me the gift of coming to boarding school at Sacred Heart Academy here at the monastery. So my year as a senior, I thought a lot about, would this be the time that I should make the step? And decided it was. So one weekend in March, I went home for the weekend to tell my parents I'd made my decision and that I was going to enter the monastery in June. Well, my poor dad gripped the chair, turned white, and all he would say is, "If that's what will really make you happy." And good Presbyterian father that he was, he stood by his word and allowed me to make the step. My mother didn't say a whole lot that weekend. She was trying to be supportive, but when I came home about a month later, I walked into the house. She took one look at me and burst into tears. "How can you be leaving me now, just when you're an adult, just when we can have an adult conversation?" So I realized how hard it was on both of my parents, but I also knew that they desired goodness for me, that was their strongest desire. So I knew I ultimately had their blessing. So it was my friends, I thought, that were the funniest, because they would say things to me like, "Oh, isn't that going to be boring, just to pray all the time?" And I found the experience was exactly the opposite. Sometimes I think a boring day would be nice, because there's always something else to do, and such wonderful things. In a lifetime, for 7 years, I taught in elementary school. I was part of an exploration of monastic renewal in the 70s. I did refugee resettlement as people came out of Vietnam after that war. I did social justice work in the diocese, trying to help parishioners know how to reach out to the poor in different ways and stand for justice. In more recent years, I've taught contemplative prayer, and I've worked in the retreat center as a spiritual director. 20 years ago, I had breast cancer, and as I went through that, friends offered me all kinds of alternative healing helps, And so I thought, maybe there's something here I can share with others. So I also became a massage therapist and offer healing touch. And it's been a benefit to so many people of their body, taking them on the spiritual journey also. So my life has been anything but boring. I'm happy to share it with anyone, and you can say, you know, if you want a life that's interesting, a life that's dedicated to God and to truth and goodness, and a life of community, this is the place for you. And I'm happy to be sitting here in front of Saint Scholastica. This is an image, a sculpture that was made for our 100th anniversary here at Sacred Heart. We were started here at the Sisters in Cullman in 1902. So 2002, we celebrated 100 years. And a local artist did this lovely statue representing Scholastica in her life and in her death. The dove represents from the Song of Songs, "Arise, my love, my beautiful one, my dove, and come."